The morning of my daughter's wedding should have been one of the happiest days of my life. I woke before the alarm, excitement and nerves swirling in my chest. The dress I had chosen, a soft lavender gown with pearl detailing, hung neatly by the window. I had spent weeks picking it out, not too flashy, not too plain, just enough to show that I was proud to be the bride's mother. I sat by my vanity, carefully pinning up my hair the way my daughter, Emily, always liked it when she was younger. "You look so beautiful, Mom," she used to say, twirling around in my shoes, her laughter filling our little house. That memory tugged at my heart as I slipped on the necklace I had worn at my own wedding, a simple silver chain with a tiny sapphire pendant. It was meant to be something borrowed, something blue. I had hoped Emily might ask to wear it herself, but she hadn't. When I arrived at the grand venue, a lavish hotel ballroom with crystal chandeliers and walls draped in roses, I was overwhelmed. I had paid for part of this, though most people didn't know. For years, I had worked quietly, building savings, investing smartly, and finally creating a trust fund in Emily's name. That money had funded her university, her apartment, and now this wedding. I expected smiles, maybe even gratitude. Instead, I was met with whispers. People eyed me as though I didn't belong. Distant relatives gave me polite nods but quickly turned away. My heart started to sink. When Emily finally appeared, dressed in a gown that shimmered like spun gold, I felt tears sting my eyes. My baby, my beautiful girl. I stepped toward her, my arms open, but she didn't smile. She glanced me up and down, her lips tightening. Standing at her side was her soon-to-be mother-in-law, an elegant woman dripping with diamonds. Emily leaned toward her, whispering something that made the woman smirk. "Emily," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Mom," she said coldly, not meeting my eyes, "maybe you should sit in the back. We don't want distractions." My chest tightened. "Distractions, sweetheart, I'm your mother. I've been waiting for this day." Before I could finish, the groom, Jason, stepped in. "Emily's right. The seating at the front is for family." Family, the word pierced me. What was I, then? Gasps rippled through the room as Jason's father, a tall man with a booming voice, approached. "Ma'am," he said, dripping with disdain, "perhaps it's best if you leave. This is a refined celebration, and well, appearances matter." The room spun. My ears rang. Leave at my own daughter's wedding. Emily looked down at her bouquet, refusing to meet my gaze. The girl I had sacrificed everything for, the one I had fed, clothed and sent to college when money was so tight that I often skipped meals myself. She wouldn't even defend me. "Emily," I whispered again, desperate, "is this really what you want, for me to leave?" Finally, she looked at me. Her eyes were cold, her voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. "You don't understand, Mom. You don't fit in here. People will think." She trailed off, then added the words that shattered me. "You'll embarrass me. Everyone knows you don't have money. Please just go." It was as if the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I stumbled back, clutching my purse like a lifeline. The guests stared, some pitying, others judging. My hands trembled as I turned toward the door. My daughter didn't follow me. She didn't even flinch. Outside, the cool evening breeze slapped my cheeks, drying the tears that blurred my vision. The laughter and music inside felt like daggers against my heart. I sat alone on a bench near the parking lot, staring up at the hotel's glittering windows. My daughter had chosen wealth, image, and her in-laws' approval over me. And yet, she had no idea that the very fortune she was so desperate to flaunt was mine. No one knew about the trust fund I had built silently for years, the millions set aside in her name. As I sat there, humiliated and broken, a thought flickered like a flame in the dark. If she wanted to erase me from her life, then maybe it was time I erased my money from hers. The ride home from the wedding felt endless. My hands were still trembling on the steering wheel, my face pale in the reflection of the rear-view mirror. The laughter and music of the celebration still echoed in my ears, mocking me. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the weight of what had happened crashed down on me fully. My daughter, my Emily, had chosen to humiliate me in front of everyone. She hadn't even hesitated. Inside the quiet of my home, I sank into the old armchair by the window, staring blankly at the family photos on the wall. Emily's smile beamed back at me from every frame. Her kindergarten graduation, her first bicycle, her prom night. In all of them, I stood beside her, proud and supportive, never letting her see the sacrifices I had made. I remembered the nights I stayed up sewing clothes for her, so she wouldn't feel different from the other kids at school. I remembered skipping meals so she could attend field trips. I remembered working 2 jobs to pay for her tuition when her father walked out on us. And then, finally, I remembered the quiet triumph of building something from nothing. I had worked at a small accounting firm, then studied investments, learning everything I could. Slowly, my efforts grew into something substantial. Over the years, I created a trust fund in Emily's name, millions, carefully saved and invested, all so she could have a life I never did. That money had always been my secret gift to her. I imagined she would one day discover it and realize how deeply I loved her. But instead, she had thrown me out of her wedding because, in her eyes, I wasn't rich enough to stand beside her. The bitterness stung like acid. I sat there in silence for a long time, my hand resting on my phone. I thought about calling Emily, about pleading for an explanation. But then the memory of her cold eyes and sharp words replayed in my mind. "You don't fit in here, you'll embarrass me." My tears dried, replaced with something else, strength. I picked up the phone and dialed a number I had memorized long ago. My lawyer, Mr. Harris, answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Whitmore, is everything all right?" "No," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I need to make some changes to my daughter's trust fund, effective immediately." There was a pause. "Changes? What kind of changes?" "I want it frozen," I said. "No access. Not to her, not to anyone tied to her. I'll come by your office in the morning to sign whatever paperwork is needed." I could hear the surprise in his silence. "You're certain about this? That's quite a drastic step." "I've never been more certain of anything," I replied. When I hung up the phone, a strange calm settled over me. For the first time that night, I felt a sense of control. Emily and her new in-laws could mock me all they wanted, but they would soon learn where the true power lay. The wedding had been a display of wealth and image. All of it funded by the money they believed came from Jason's family. But the reality was different. Without my trust fund, Emily and Jason's dreams, their luxury honeymoon, their new home, their plans would collapse like a house of cards. I thought of the smug look on Jason's father's face when he told me to leave. He thought I was beneath them. They all did, but they had no idea. As the moonlight spilled across the room, I leaned back in my chair, my lips curving into a faint, bitter smile. They had taken my love for granted. Now they would learn what it meant to underestimate me. The silence of the night wasn't empty anymore. It was powerful, it was mine. It had been 3 days since the wedding, 3 days since I walked out of that glittering hall, humiliated and broken. But while Emily and her new husband were supposed to be on a luxury honeymoon in Paris, I knew their plans had changed. My lawyer had confirmed that morning the trust fund was locked tight. No money could move in or out without my approval. I expected silence, maybe even shame. What I got instead was rage. That evening, as I was folding laundry, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. My gut told me exactly who it was before I answered. "Hello," I said calmly. A deep, booming voice exploded on the other end. "What have you done?" I held the phone slightly away from my ear. "And who is this? You know damn well who this is," the man barked. "This is Richard Collins, Jason's father. The trust fund, our fund has been frozen. My son and daughter-in-law can't access a dime. You've made a serious mistake, Mrs. Whitmore." I inhaled slowly, letting his words sink in, though my heartbeat stayed steady. "Correction," I said evenly. "It's not your fund. It never was. That money is mine. Every cent of it. Built over years of hard work. You should be grateful I ever intended to give it to Emily at all." He laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. "You don't make me laugh. You live in that shabby little house